Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, the good and wonderful people of the tube. Hope you are today. Hope you are feeling grand and always well in your world. Today, welcome to another lesson of how to play like the legend, the amazingness, the incredibleness, the one of a kind, the one and only Mr. Peter Green. This is, I think, the 5th video I've done in this series, and I say there will be many more. I'm going to get into a couple of other things of Peter's later on, but today we are going to focus on a song called Worried Dream, which is an incredible blues song, and Peter's playing in it, tone, singing are all to die for. And basically I'm going to kind of focus on kind of some of the things he did in the live version. There's a couple of live versions though, so I'm going to focus on one version. I've got it here, so I'm going to show you what it is in a bit. But I'm going to talk about kind of some of the things he does in this version, and try and kind of like get you on the path to playing your own version in the style of, if that makes any sense. Because Peter never would play it the same way twice. I've got a version of him playing at the Marquee in 1967. Danny Cohen hadn't joined yet, and he does the entire first verse solo on his own, just him, the guitar, and the band comes in at the beginning of the second verse. And that's, and then in this version the band's in straight away, and and it kind of starts with a solo. So it'd be different every time, really. And I think that's one of the main things to kind of always remember about Peter, is he probably would never play the same thing twice. In a blues context anyway. So yeah, I'm going to try and kind of like talk about how putting your own slant on it in style. So first thing, let's talk about the chords and the chord progression of Worried Dream. So let's talk about that now. Okay, so chord progression of Worried Dream is pretty simple. It's just a 12-bar blues in G minor, and all the chords are minors. So you've got G minor, C minor, and D minor. And it'll go G, it's a quick change, which means it has 1 bar of G, and then goes to C, and then comes back to G for another 2 bars, and then it'll change to C again, sorry, I do apologise. So it's kind of quick change to C minor, and then back to G. C, and back to G again, then D minor, C minor, and G minor. And I'm going to stop there because the turnaround changes. For the first twice around the 12 bars, the bass player goes for the turnaround. But when Peter starts playing rhythm and starts singing, it actually goes from the D stays on the G to the D minor. So that's something to bear in mind. The turnaround does change, and it's that kind of the G to the D minor onwards. So for the first, what would it be, 24 bars of the song, it's actually kind of like, you know, a bog standard kind of blues turnaround. Then it changes when Peter actually starts singing. So that's the chord progression: G minor, C minor, and D minor. They're the chords, and I say it's just a usual 12-bar progression. Soloing wise, he's using a Peter Greeny scale, which if you haven't seen it, it's in previous videos. I think it's in the first video. He's using G minor pentatonic up here, G minor pentatonic up here, and obviously, you know, the Greeny scale. Other than that, he's not really going outside of it. Neck pickup, pretty much 100% of the time in this song, it's all neck pickup. He does change around the 6. If you're listening to the song on YouTube, around the 6:30 mark, he switches to the middle, and he actually goes to his bridge for a very, 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 very brief period of time, and I'll show you that later on, just to, you know, so you can kind of point it out. But mainly it's neck pickup, which is kind of standard for Peter. He very, very, very rarely ever used the bridge pickup for blues. It was kind of his out of phase, or I say 90% of the time, his neck pickup alone. So that's that. I want to talk too about dynamic playing, because this is the key to this song, is the dynamics of how you play, and also the kind of the tone of it, of how you're playing. So I want to talk quick about dynamics. Okay, so dynamic touch. This is something that Peter was a master of, absolute master of. You could go from to, and it's really hard to get that. I haven't heard anybody who gets the same intensity as Peter did yet. I just haven't. I can't do it. I will hold my hands up and say I cannot do it. There is just something about when he's playing quietly and then he goes to that, the impact of that is unreal. And I say it's so hard to get. It's really hard to get. So don't despair if you can't, because in all fairness, I think probably he was the only one. There's something about that man that he could do things that normal minions we can't. He was just way above. So that kind of thing. But also kind of like the start of the song, he does this, which is just basically a walk down in the G minor pentatonic. You start on the 5th fret on the A string, then you go to the 3rd fret on your D string, 5th fret D string, and then you finish up on your G string on the 3rd fret. And then he comes down here to the Greeny scale in G, which is between kind of like the 10th and 13th frets. And I say, if you don't know the Greeny scale, go back to, I think it's the 1st or 2nd video, I forget, where I talk about, you know, it's kind of a made-up scale that, you know, of notes that Peter would use a lot of. It's kind of a second position of a pentatonic scale with added notes. And then he comes down here and does the, but then he does that, boom, boom, and he goes, you know, and it's this dynamic that's so important in this song, is from, you know, real quiet to all of a sudden. And you kind of, when you're kind of improvising, you kind of want to try and get into the mind of somebody watching, like an audience member watching, and if they think you're going to go loud, stay quiet, and when they think you're going to go quiet, you go loud. And it seems to be that thing, catch them off guard, make them jump, so to say. So if you're kind of, and I hope that worked. I mean, you knew I was going to go loud at some point, but I didn't tell you when. And I think that's kind of the thing. I was trying to get into kind of the mindset of somebody watching and thinking, oh, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, and then it's not when you expect it. So kind of bear that in mind. And that's another thing with dynamics as well. It's just, Peter was a master of it, he really was. So, that's that kind of thing, really. And I say, it's massively important when you're playing like Peter Green to think dynamically. And also, I suppose you could kind of call it economical, if you will. I kind of want to talk about, like, economical playing, not kind of playing too much, especially when he sings, especially during the verses. And I always think it's really important if you're playing onto a backing track to not literally just go hell for leather thinking, oh, there's nobody singing, so I'm just going absolutely mental. Think of, if you played a 12-bar blues backing track, think of a singer singing with you as you're playing, and try and fit what you're playing around that. Just kind of put anything in your head of where a singer would sing, and then try and play outside of that to complement it. And I think, you know, that's something that Peter was great at as well, and I think that's kind of one of the key things to playing blues is to kind of articulate what you're playing around an idea of a vocal, and to make the guitar kind of a bit more of a reaction to what you're singing, so to say. So yeah, I mean that's another thing to do. So yeah, dynamics are super important, and I say going loud when people think you should be quiet, or you think people think you should be quiet, and loud and quiet when people think you should be loud, is very important. And I say, I mean, I'll get to that in a minute when I'll show you Peter's playing as well, because he's just absolutely immense. So so that's that. Tone wise, I just want to talk about that quick as well, because that's an important thing, and then we're going to get into some of the kind of little, you know, little licks he uses quite a lot. So let's talk about tone, and then we'll get on with some little lickage, if you will. Okay, tone. Peter Green tone in this track is to die for, and it's 60, I don't actually know the year of it, 67, 68, I don't know what amp he's using at this point. It could be Orange, it could be Fender, it's one of the two, I'm not actually 100% sure. But he's got this super kind of super clean bluesy tone, but it's got a bit of bite to him. If you switch your bridge, you know, it's like, it's pretty gainy, but like, I mean, his amp was probably absolutely maxed out, but it's how you play in that sound that's kind of important. It's got neck pickup, makes it warmer. You know, so it's kind of very important. It's got to be a very dynamic kind of sound you dial in. I'm using obviously the Bluetooth CO120 because I adore it, and I'm on the dirty channel. I've got the treble middle off. I've got a bit of bass on 2, and the gain's on halfway. So it's a bit of gain, but not tons. I'm going for that kind of vintage kind of breakup, and it's got to be really kind of warm but aggressive. So when you dig in, it really hits people in the face. But when you ease off, it's, you know, really nice without touching the volume control. So so that's kind of tone you want to be heading for. I say really kind of gainy but kind of dynamic to play with. So you can kind of go just by altering how hard and how heavy you pick, really. So that's the kind of tone you want to be going for. So just to recap, neck pickup 100%, pretty much 100% of the time in Worried Dream. He does switch to that phase and the bridge for a very, 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 very small period of time. But I say, I mean, if you stick on the neck, that's kind of important. It's in G minor, so G minor pentatonic, G minor second position pentatonic with the Greeny Scale, and the position down here for G minor pentatonic. What else? Dynamics, very important dynamics to play, like, you know, light, hard, you know, loud, quiet. And I say, very economical playing. Don't play too much, but try not to play overly little, if that makes any sense. Like, you know, don't play at all. You know, don't not play at all, if that makes any sense. So, you know, as I say, always think of somebody singing and try and kind of go with them or go after them, if that makes sense. Try and complement a made-up kind of singer in your head, really, and then you'll kind of you know, you can create more melodic lines as well, instead of just kind of like widdly. So so yeah, that's that. So let's talk about some of the kind of licks that Peter Green would use. So yeah, let's do that. Okay, so let's talk about some of the kind of little licks that Peter Green would use in this song, and they're kind of mainstay licks, really, that Peter would use quite a lot, especially things like, or that, and just hitting one note, and this, just shooting up pentatonic scales. There's another one as well, which is, fingers got in the way, stuff like that, and does this one. So let's start at the beginning with this one. I have taught this one before in a couple of previous lessons, I forget which one, but it's kind of like, you hear that a lot in Peter's playing. He would use this one a lot. So basically, you start on a 10th fret on your G string, and then you hammer on to the 12th fret, or you could pick at the 12th fret. It doesn't matter either way. You can hammer on, or you can pick. It depends how you feel. And this is, again, that's massively important. How you feel. Peter at that point in time felt like that. How do you feel when you play it? That's another thing, and I'll get to that at the end of the video. But so you start on your 10th fret on your G string. Hammer on to the 12th fret on your G string, so you get that sound. Then you use your middle finger to go onto the 11th fret on your B string, and then you go back to the 10th fret on your G string, and to finish it off, you finish on the 12th fret on your G string. So 10th, hammer onto the 12th, 11th on the B string, 10th fret on the G string, and finish on the 12th fret on the G string. And you do it with varying intensities. You can kind of, and I say, really light with this hand. I'm not touching the volume control at all. Little finger way to play the high E string then. Or, that's another one. Another kind of mainstay of Peter's was this one, which is amazing. That's the Peter Green lick. One of the many awesome ones. And what you're doing here is you're bending up the 13th fret a tone. You kind of see, you bend it up, and then you pull off from the 13th fret to the 11th fret. And then you finish up on the 12th fret on your G string. And then there's also another one where it hits just the 12th fret alone. Just vibratos it. So that's kind of like three actually, kind of like main licks. Another one he uses, this one down here, which is the, gravy, 19th fret. You start on the 19th fret, and then you go down to the 18th fret on your B string, 19th fret G string, 18th fret B string, and then the 20th fret B string as well. And you play that light or soft. And you can also play that same one with a different tonality on the 15th fret B string, 13th fret high E, and 15th fret high E. So you can hear the difference in tonality. The one further up neck is a lot warmer, and he does alternate between them two. Kind of like, if he's playing lighter, he tends to go there. When he plays a bit more aggressively, he seems to go to this one, which seems to be a bit, it's a lot more aggressive. Because it's on a higher strings, you get a bit more of a kind of a bright attack. So that's another one he uses, kind of a lot of. And say there's that one, which is just basically, you fret the 18th fret on the B string, and you just pull off to the 15th fret on your B string. So 18th fret, pull off to your 15th B string. So they're kind of some of the main kind of like higher up licks he uses quite a lot, and it's really important to kind of like to get them into your kind of into playing through it. So I'm just going to play through like a little passage of A Worried Dream, and I'll put them in down here. I won't go to the lower one yet because, as I say, I haven't got to them yet. So we'll talk about these ones down here and how to use them. So yeah, let's do it. an idea of how you can use like the high little licks he does, and the dynamics of it. You know, I say with volume always up on 10. It's kind of, you know, light and shade, if you will. You know, quite loud. Another thing he would do would be up here. I mean, the intro one, which I've already shown. And then he would do things like, and he would get quieter on the end of the things like that. You know, and that's just G minor pentatonic up here that I'm using, and then so there's that really kind of like, it's like a standard blues lick, which is starts with this, which is you're bending up the 5th fret, and then you hit your, yeah, you're bending up a tone. I will get there, sorry about that. So you're bending up the 5th fret on your G string a tone, and then this finger plays the high E string and the B string. So you kind of use your middle finger and your ring finger to bend up the G string at 5th fret, a tone, and then your first finger bars over the 3rd fret on the high E and the B. And you pick the high E first, and then the B. And then you bend up the 6th fret on your B string, a tone. So it's about note. And then, after that, you finish, you normally finish it with something like, so you're bending up the 5th fret on the G string a half step to the blues note, the flat 5. Like that. So you bend up a half tone, and then you go back to your 3rd fret on your G, and then you finish it on the 5th fret on the D. And that would normally be kind of quiet, so kind of loud, quiet. And try and kind of practice kind of like doing the loud and then the quiet. And that last bit I just did there is just going up basically the top part of the G minor pentatonic scale with the blue note, which is the flat 5, which is that one. Oh, the ominous note. And I'm just basically going 5th fret D, 3rd fret D, 5th fret A, 4th fret A, the blue note, 3rd fret A, and 6th fret low E, and finishing up on the G note on the 3rd fret on the low E. And I kind of played out with my thumb. You know, and there's kind of those little kind of like bluesy like fall-offs, if you will. So that's kind of like the low things. And I say it's really important to kind of, well, you can't really play along to the track because it's slightly out of tune. It's not out of tune for them, they're in tune, but this back before the days of chromatic tuners, so they're basically in their own tuning. It's not quite in tune, so if you're playing along and it sounds weird, that's the reason. You know, you could always kind of like, you know, just retune by ear and do that, but there's a lot of backing tracks on YouTube and all over the place in the key of G that you can kind of you can try all these things on. Tom Cruise is flying overhead into the danger zone. Anyway, back to Peter Green, not Kenny Loggins, not yet. What was that supposed to mean? Anyway, moving back to Peter Green, let's get back to the point at hand. Oh, it's all gone wrong. Let's start again. Calm down, Dave. So yeah, where was I? So yeah, kind of important to kind of play in the style of, but not kind of be 100% a copy. As I say, Peter Green will play it differently every time, so just kind of bear that in mind. So I'm just going to go around the structure again, using the low kind of little licks I've used, the Peter Green's, the Greeny Scale licks, and also the really high ones. And I'm going to try and do with the light and shade, you know, intensity, kind of easing back and that kind of thing. Just kind of show you kind of what I mean by it. So yeah, so let me show you that, show you an idea, if you will. Okay, so recap time. I'm just going to go kind of like through kind of everything from the beginning, and I'm going to talk about the actual song we're talking about at this point in time, the version I'm talking about. So, as I say, 100% of the time, pretty much net pickup. I will talk a bit about when changing it. You can change it to a middle, you can change it to a bridge, but to kind of keep that vibe, so to say, I would stick with just the net pickup alone. Kind of tone-wise, gained up, but nice and dynamic tone. You know, not too much distortion, but you know, just enough to kind of give you some oomph, so to say. Say G minor pentatonic scale, G minor Greeny scale, G minor second position down here, third position technically. Pick hard and light, you know, to change dynamic. Have that singer in your head to play around or complement or play with. It's Tom Cruise again. He's loving it today. Yeah, and just kind of like develop that kind of lightness of touch that's kind of, you know, that he has. I say that kind of where he could be really aggressive but then really delicate with it as well. That's another kind of thing. And I say just try and incorporate those Greeny licks that I've showed you. Try and incorporate them into some kind of like other little combinations. I mean, I've spoken about this in previous videos as well. And there's a couple of others in other videos. Just try and like try to channel, if that makes any sense. I know it's a bit of a strange kind of weird Zenish thing to say of channeling Peter Green, but try and kind of like listen to the song and hear when he's playing and why he's playing it. And that is key, is listening to it, is really hearing when he does that and why he's doing it. What, you know, why is he playing off beat there? What is he trying to convey with his guitar? If he sings a line that really means something to him and he goes, you know, that dictates that line is, you know, it could mean it's sad or it's angry, and it's kind of a helpless kind of note almost, I'd say. So every note that Peter Green plays has some kind of feeling behind it, and it's important to try and convey that when you try and play like him. This is what makes playing like Peter Green very hard, because his playing is so emotional and so heartfelt and so full of feel. It's very difficult to kind of channel it. So yeah, try and keep that in mind. I say try and use those. Try to use the Greeny scale, this position of pentatonic scale, that position of pentatonic scale with the blue note. Try different combinations of bends as well, like different kind of speeds of going up and down the scale of the blues scale as well. Kind of not full pelt shred, just kind of, and then, you know, just different speeds, different intensities. That's really key. So I'll say net pickup is main kind of sound, and yeah, I mean, I hope this is, you know, I hope this is really help. I hope this is being helpful anyway. So yeah, try and keep that in, you know, try and keep in mind some of the things I've been saying about. So let's say, I mean, listen to this song, try and absorb it as best you can. Really take it all in and listen to every little detail of his playing. Just try and figure out why he's doing what he's doing at those particular points. That's kind of key, and you know, really using your lug holes to kind of really get inside the head of a man and what's going on, and that's the key to playing like Peter. Really, it's really hard. It's really difficult, and it took me a long time to get to understand him, and I still don't fully understand him. I understand people like John Frusciante and Jimi Hendrix a lot better than Peter. Peter's very hard to get your head around. He really is. He's quite difficult. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Anyway, and I say I hope this has helped out with some of the kind of like, you know, those kind of bluesy licks that Peter would use, and some ideas really of how to kind of play more in the style of Peter, because it's the most gorgeous blues playing style. It really is. You can see why B.B. King said what he said about Peter, because it's really incredible. It really is absolute unrivaled, in my opinion. Peter is. So hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again very soon for another one. Have a great morning, afternoon and good evening, and yeah, get on and practice Mr. Green. It's all worth it.